Hey you guys, welcome back to another segment of Getting to Know Megan Ashley. I put out on my Instagram to ask me a question or any topic that you want to hear me talk about. And so here are a few of you guys' questions. What are the habits that I'm putting into practice to maintain a closer relationship with God? I think for me personally, it's having a schedule. I think a schedule really helps me in my accountability. So making sure that I'm scheduling time to spend with God, to spend intimate time with Him, quiet time, uninterrupted time. Making sure that I'm scheduling time to journal, to do a devotion, like those type of things. And they don't have to be hours of time set apart. I think just like devoting a solid, uninterrupted hour of my day where I can journal, pray, spend time with God, and making sure that I'm sticking to that schedule. That helps me. And in doing that and sticking to that, I build a deeper relationship with Him because I'm spending more time with Him. Have I ever felt disconnected from God or questioned why? Oh yeah, I've had plenty of seasons like that. I think the time that I can think about feeling like I was far from God or questioning why was probably when my son Caleb was diagnosed with autism. When that happened, I didn't understand. I couldn't see what God wanted to do or what He was going to do. I didn't see His goodness in that time. It was heartbreaking to me, and I felt like God abandoned me. I felt like He left me. I felt like He was punishing me because Caleb was the only child that I prayed for and planned for. But I think that that's normal. And I think that if you go back and look at anybody that has done great ministry, even in the Bible, that they have felt like maybe abandoned or forsaken by God or questioned maybe some things. I think that's human, and I think God has grace for you for that. But then be reminded of His track record, and He's always pulled through. And even with Caleb, my son, being diagnosed with autism, I have seen God's glory in it, and He has done miraculous things through Caleb's life and in our family. So I think it's normal, but just remind yourself of what God has brought you through thus far, and He's the same God. He's not going to change. What do I admire most about myself? I admire such a weird question. I admire my ability to always kind of come back to what God wants me to do. Like, I've experienced moments of straying or disobedience, but I never am too far away from God. Like, I admire that He's always able to grab my attention and get me back to where He wants me to be. Some people don't come back, some people walk away and stay away. The biggest question in my life right now. And why? I don't know. What is the biggest, if you guys know me, you know that I think a lot about a lot of things, and why is my favorite question. So I don't know. I don't have the biggest question. I'm always like, God, what are you doing? I think that that's always my biggest question. Like, what are you doing and why? And I'm curious of how He's gonna make it all work out. I think that's the biggest question. How are you working this all out, and what you're gonna do in this? Because I've seen how you've done other things, but you always show up differently. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I didn't see that coming. It's kind of like that thing. So, yeah, it's always like, God, what are you doing, and how are you going to work this out? I trust that He will, but that is my biggest question. Man, I could do a whole getting to know Megan Ashley, the divorcee, all the things that I wish I would have done better as a wife. As a young wife, I would say things that I could have done better at. I don't have a manual outside of the Bible that will help, like a 5-step, here you go. But I will say that devoting yourself fully to God as an individual as a woman, like fully devoting yourself to God and being fully obedient to him and having emotional maturity and emotional accountability, I think is extremely important, because what people don't understand is people get into relationships and they get infatuated with the idea of the relationship, and they get infatuated with the idea of the person, and that infatuation doesn't prepare you for real life, right? So now you're married to somebody and maybe the honeymoon phase has faded and this person is challenging you in one way or another. But learning to be obedient to God and not being offended by your spouse, not reacting in a way where, oh, they did this, so I can do this. They did that, so I have the right to do. Jordan's over here doing ballet, so I don't know. I'm sorry. She's doing this, this, and this, and all I could see is her doing ballet in the middle of me trying to explain how you should not rush into getting married if you're not ready. But yeah, I think being solid in your obedience to God, because your spouse is going to challenge you, and you can't play the tit for tat game. You can't, oh, well, he's doing something he's not supposed to do, so I'm not going to give him none. Or I'm going to withhold sex because I want him to do what I want him to do. Like all those type of things. It's like, be fully rooted and committed and obedient to God. And through that, the Holy Spirit will help you and lead you into how to show up for your husband. He will lead you on how to pray for your spouse. He will lead you how to be a mom and a spouse all at the same time, and learn how to navigate through all of that. Learning how to be a full spiritual woman, which means learning how to fight spiritually, pray spiritually, do all things through the Spirit, will prepare you to be a great wife. Whether you're young, middle-aged, old, whatever, having a solid relationship with God and having unwavering obedience and having a healthy reverential fear of God, because he takes that covenant very seriously, that will prepare you to be the best wife. But you have to do that as an individual first. So outside of my relationship with God, and I'm assuming like people in my life, what makes me happy? Traveling makes me really happy. Sitting by water makes me happy. Sitting outside makes me happy. I love being outside. I don't really like bugs, but I love being outside, like air, fresh air. Anything with water. Art makes me happy. Music makes me happy. Poetry or like quotes. It's my jam. Lyrics make me happy. I don't know, a lot of things, like a lot of little things make me happy. Seeing flowers grow make me happy. Yeah, just simple things. Am I happy that I'm single and celibate? Yeah, I mean, I can choose to be happy with anything. It is what it is. I'm enjoying this time of God having my full attention. So, and sometimes it's enjoyable, sometimes it's not. Sometimes I want to have somebody. I'm gonna keep it a buck. Like, I love being in relationships. I think in my natural self, I like being in relationships. I like having a person, but yeah, I don't know. Some days it's great and some days it sucks. Especially when your phone dry, DMs dry. Ain't nobody talk to you. Ain't nobody trying to talk to you. Ain't nobody thinking about you. That always sucks because I'm still a human. But God really does have my full attention right now. So it's like, it sucks for 2.5 seconds. And then I'm like, you're busy anyway. Like, you were in no position to try to be whatever. So this wasn't really a question, but it's a topic of feeling that you're only valued when you are doing something that benefits other people. And then the moment that you don't do something that benefits them, there's a feeling of abandonment. And I think that I have experienced this often, or felt this way often. Maybe that wasn't the intention of the other person or whatever, but I have felt that feeling before. And that feeling of like, when I'm doing something that makes you happy, then you love me. And then the second that I stop serving you in the same way, or I am human, now it's I can't deal with you or whatever. I think that I don't have an answer for like why that is, or to say if it's fair or not fair. I think that everyone has a right to choose what they want to do. I think that if there's a pattern of someone doing that to you, then it might be worth taking into consideration how much investment you need to put into that relationship. And then ask yourself, why am I doing the things that I'm doing? Why do I feel like I have to overcompensate? Why do I feel like I am not enough on my own? And a lot of times it can be a projection thing, like you actually feel that way about yourself. And you're allowing the responses of other people to cause you to feel or agree with that feeling. You have to know who you are, and you have to know that you are valued with or without doing something for other people. Or you might be a person that, because you like to do stuff for other people, that is just who you are. And that's how you show up in relationships. And, that's okay. That your character and your practices, are one. That's okay. I think that that's a hard feeling to overcome, but I think that it's an opportunity for God to show something to you, for you. And don't allow anyone's actions to change your character. If you have a servant's heart, just continue to have a servant's heart. And when you hit your capacity, learn how to go back to God and get filled so that you can continue to be who He's called you to be. And don't worry about pleasing other people, because it's not about pleasing them. It's about pleasing the Father and about being obedient to what He's called you to do. And everything else will fall into place, but make that your focus. How to walk in your purpose when your family rejects it and fights you against it. I've never had an experience like that. My family has been super supportive of me. So I don't know what to say about that, but whatever God tells you to do that. And if you know that He's called you to do a certain thing, it may be hard to not be accepted by your family, but it is far better to be rejected by your family because you've accepted what God has told you to do than to be rejected by God just to be accepted by your family. So they will come around. They will come around, because everybody doesn't always see it the way that God presented to you, because He gave it to you. He said this is what you're supposed to do. He didn't give it to your family. So they may not understand, and have grace for them for that. But you have to be obedient. But yeah, just be obedient to whatever God tells you to do. And that's the most important thing. So I don't know. I think if you have children and you're dating somebody new, I think that your children's other parent, so the mom or dad, your ex-partner, you guys need to come up with what that looks like for your family. And I think that the other parent should meet that person before your children do, just because their children are, that's their kids too. So they have to, I feel like their comfortability is important. So I don't know. I don't know when the right time is. It would be between whenever you and the children's other parent have decided works for y'all's blended family. But I think that you should give it time. There should be a solid 6 months plus maybe before, depending on how old the kids are too. But yeah, be led by God. I don't know. Everybody's situation is different. Oh, there's a butterfly. Would I write a book? I believe that I will write a book one day. I don't know. I believe that God has given me has started to develop in me my life's message. And in that, I know that I will write a book one day. So yes, it will happen one day. If I had to choose a color for how I feel today, what would the color be? Something bright. I don't know. I've really been into like the idea of orange and yellow and green. Those are the colors that have been inspiring to me. Yellow, orange, green, bright colors. So yeah, a mix between those. That's what I would say.
What does it look like to be submitted to God so that a man has to seek him to get you?
I mean that your heart has to be so rooted in God that in order for a man to ever, have your attention, it would have to come through the direction of God. Like that man would have to really be in alignment with God and who God called him to be, and in order to be able to relate to you or get your heart's attention. Like when your heart isn't solid in God, because the Bible talks about your heart being deceitful above all things. It says the heart is deceitful above all things. Who can know it but God, right? So if you're not rooted your heart in God, then the things that move you may not be in the direction the way God wants you to be moved. So when your heart is rooted in him, anything that is for you comes through him. So that's what I mean by that. Like my heart is rooted in God, and I spend intimate time with him. So he instructs me on what type of person that I'm supposed to be in intimate relationships with, because I pray over that, right? I pray that God closes any door to any relationship that I'm not supposed to have, and he opens the door to any relationship that I should have. So when I'm solid in that and rooted and grounded and anchored in that direction, my heart is anchored in that direction, then anything that comes to me will come from that, come from God. It will come from that direction. So that's what I mean by that. Green flags in a relationship. So it's funny because we were having a conversation. I was having a conversation with Jay and Jordan, and we were just talking about navigating through, friendships and relationships. And we had something sitting in front of us, and I'm like, if I see this object say you're with a friend and there's an object in front of you, and you see this object as green, right? And the other person sees that object as blue. Healthy relationships will look at that as an opportunity to gain perspective. Like, oh, okay, I see this as blue, they see this as green, and they may not be wrong. They really, from where they're sitting, they may really see this object as green. So healthy relationships and green flags is someone that is open to saying, hey, I know I see this as blue, and I know that you see this as green. Are you open? And this is something that Jay said, and I was like, this freed me up, straight up, like set me free, just like that. Are you open to the perspective that I have from the vantage point that I sit in, because I see this as green, and I know that you see it as, or I see this as blue, and I know that you see that as green. Are you open to seeing it for any other color than green? If that person says yes, that is a green flag. That is a healthy relationship, because now we're gaining perspective. Now you're open to the idea that it may not just be green. Red flags would be, no, I see this as green, and you're crazy that you see it as blue. And we're not in alignment. We need to not be friends because I see this as blue. Or I see this as green and you see this as blue. That would be unhealthy. Green flag, healthy relationships, emotional maturity, spiritual maturity would say, hey, I know I see this as this way, and I know you see it as that way, and I'm open to your perspective. As long as it doesn't compromise truth, I have no problem with bending towards your perspective so that we can both have an understanding on this object that's in front of us. And by learning your perspective and by you learning my perspective, we can take care of this thing in a healthy way. And we can appreciate it in the totality of what it is. And before you know it, God comes in and he starts to work it out where now I can see the green in it and you can see the blue in it. And it's a beautiful, miraculous thing. That's what it should be. Those are the green flags on healthy relationship.